So I made a video a few weeks ago that got restricted for copyright violation. And they said that I had a week suspended, but I still couldn't upload 2.5 weeks later. But I'm pretty sure I can now. It was titled Cognitive Warfare and Ethical Cleansing. And before they took it down, Kyung copied it and uploaded the audio file to Odyssey. And it's just got a single still frame of my ugly mug there on the cover, which might actually make for better listening. That way you're not distracted with all the hand waving and the antics. And it was one of my better rants. It wasn't anything I haven't said before, but it showed me that I was wrong about the idea that I've got a latitude to say whatever I want. Maybe AI doesn't want me for a data stream that bad after all. Anyway, link will be in the description. You can listen to the forbidden crimethink that got me grounded. And I don't have much to add to that. It's about the witch hunt that's going on that I've spoke of before. But I will add this as a sequel. It's about a 50-minute long speech, and there's a segment in there, because it's only an audio file now, that might need a little explaining. I cut to some preacher guy that's encouraging everyone to go do their part. Take the jab. From a James True stream. I'm going to talk real quick about hesitation here in just a second. First, there's this story about the Travis Scott concert where there was a crowd surge and a bunch of people got trampled. And there's part of the story that seems to have gone missing. They buried the headline. That someone went around with one of these. I'll include a link in the description and a timestamp where you can go straight to the point in the video where there's a uniformed officer behind a podium, apparently at a press briefing, where he says that there was a narrative going around, but then he follows on with the evidence that shows it wasn't just a narrative. That someone was running around with a pin with a plunger on it. And the officer then goes on to say that one of the security guards who was reaching out to restrain someone and grab somebody felt a prick on the back of his neck, and then he passed out. And then later on, the EMTs, the emergency medical team, confirmed he's got a mark on the back of his neck that's consistent with someone that received an injection. Of all the people that have covered this story, that seems to be a minor side note or completely off the radar. And perhaps that's by design. In order to avoid copycats of regular people or to avoid panic, because this seems like it would be aside from organic copycats, there could be coordinated, orchestrated instances like this, where sleepy cellular units use these as a weapon that's not even classified as a weapon until you use it as such. But in order to inflict the maximum amount of traumatic psychological impact on your enemy, your weapon, half of it is the fear and the horror that it inflicts psychologically on your enemy. And people would get more scared if you pulled out one of these than if you pulled out a gun or a knife these days because of all the fear around them. And from the description of this officer, it sounds like it could have been coordinated. Like the guy that pricked the security guard in the back of the neck might have actually been coordinating with the guy that the security guard was reaching out to grab. You go act a fool. When security comes to grab you, they'll be focused on you and putting their hands on you, and from behind, I'll give them a prick. And then the security guard passed out, according to this officer. So he wasn't in the middle of a crowd surge that was crushing him. That's not why he passed out. He was still functional, performing his duties, reaching out to restrain a person when he felt that prick on his neck and then passed out. But that seems to have disappeared from the story. Otherwise, it would be the main focus of attention. Everything else would be a secondary side note. That would also explain why the crowd surge. They all started freaking out because someone's over there poking people. Just something I've noticed. Seems like the headline that got buried on that story. Meanwhile, everyone else is focusing in on these nebulous nuances of symbolism and numerology and shit. And kind of not paying enough attention to the main headline of that story. The other thing is that most of the people that died or went to the hospital did so because of heart conditions, and everyone who attended that concert had to have their certificate to show that they've already gotten it. Why all the heart conditions? This is happening to a lot of people. Anyway, something I want to talk about: hesitation. And I think I might have figured out how we in the truth community, like Matt always says, we got played and used, the truthers. So right now, the bells are ringing all over about empty shelves and supply line shortages, but everyone seems to be complacent. And where I live, they haven't gone out and done the panic buying the way they did the first time. And it's probably because we've been through the first time that everyone's like, normalcy bias kicks in. And they assume, that happened before with the whole toilet paper thing, and everything turned out okay. So they're complacent. It's like if a bully in high school, when you walk past him in the hall every day, he fake hits you and he flexes on you like that. The first few times you flinch. Eventually you stop flinching because you expect it to not actually land. So by the time he actually follows all the way through, you don't flinch in self-defense to deflect, and the full impact is received. We, the truthers, the reason that the majority of people, the normies right now, aren't questioning a lot of things like what the hell's going on, because we've been telling them for the last 20 years. And they see us over here crowing about how I told you so, I told you so. They can't make sense of anything. They look to us saying, yep, this adds up, that lines up, this lines up, that lines up with everything we've been telling you. So the average person isn't questioning things. We flinched on them over the last 20 years so many times. Now that tinfoil hat new world order we've been talking about for 20 years is all around them, they've been desensitized to it by all those tinfoil hatters that told them this was coming. Now that it's happening all around them, even though they denied it and preferred, to believe and think about other things, now that it's happening all around them, we flinched on them so many times that they're not even flinching anymore. We flexed on them and showed them what was coming so many times that now that it's here, they're not even flinching. They're just watching it happen all around them going, oh yeah, this is what the tinfoil hatters talked about this. They predicted this. It was all as it was meant to be. And somehow some sort of normalcy bias kicks in. They've been desensitized. And I think that was how we, the truther community, got used or played. To prepare them for what's to come, desensitize them so when it happens, they're just as familiar with what's going on as the truthers. They were just in denial while the truthers were in investigation mode. So I would say don't be despondent and complacent and recognize that this is the last call for preppers to get what you need while there's still something on the shelves. And they're ringing those bells louder than they ever did during the toilet paper scare. During the toilet paper scare, it took a couple of news segments about missing toilet paper and people just cleared the aisles. Now, there's news segments every night about empty shelves and supply lines that are all jammed up. Yet people aren't panic buying like they did before. I think it's from the conditioning of the last shortage that we went through. So I would say don't be complacent. Recognize that this is almost impossible for it not to eventually make its way around to a store near you. And about the witch hunt, I couldn't have said it better myself than I did on my epic rant that got me grounded. So I'll just leave the link in the description to Cognitive Warfare and Ethical Cleansing that talks about the witch hunt. But it also desensitized us for the next witch hunt, just like that flexing and flinching and desensitization process. The next witch hunt, the big one, comes in the form of disclosure that we're not alone. And so that next witch hunt will go very differently because of the one that we have just been through, that we're going through still. People will be far less likely to go along with groupthink, herd mentality, hive mind type of behavior, and much more likely to think for themselves. They will be much less likely to put any stock in statements like, authorities have stated, officials have declared. That will be very meaningless to them by comparison to what it was just a year and a half or so ago. And so it's like the same desensitization process. When you flex on somebody and they stop flinching because they've been desensitized to it. The authorities have been one flexing for a year and a half, 2 years now. And in the next witch hunt, we're not even going to flinch. Like go along with and question and accept and consider. We'll just immediately disregard or assume the exact opposite. So this process we've been through has prepared us for the next witch hunt, which would be the greatest witch hunt of all time. Us against them. You're either with us or you're with them. People are going to respond very differently now that they've been through this conditioning process than they would have otherwise. And just like the shortages on the shelves, it's pretty much impossible for it not to eventually be consequential to each one of us. Likewise, the increasing amount of UFO sightings, it's pretty much impossible that that's not eventually going to come to light and have consequences. For example, I'll put a link in the description of Mary Hall, who captures them on a daily basis now, and she wasn't doing that 6 months to a year ago. But the one I'll link in the description shows hundreds of UFOs, and it seems like a large one with a bunch of small ones surrounding it. Could it be a planetary object with debris orbiting it? Whatever it is, it's increasingly being observed in our skies. So I think that witch hunt is just around the corner.